approve the agenda, please?
I'd so move.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye, please.
Aye.
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 Opposed, same. The first action item is the consent grouping. And the recommendation is to approve the consent grouping as presented. Need a motion?
I'd make the motion to approve the consent grouping.
I'll support.
Any discussion? Dr. Segler, would you call the roll, please?
Shear,
Yes.
Berge,
Yes.
McKellar,
Yes.
Tank,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next action item is a recommendation is for server infrastructure upgrade bid. Dr. Coffin?
Yes, good afternoon. As you can see in your packet, we did receive the bids and there is a recommendation there. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Brandy and she can explain a little bit more about the intricacies of the bid process and explanation of the rationale for the recommendation.
Thank you. Thank you all for your time today. We received three bidders, 3 vendors with 8 bids each, or 8 bids total. So most submitted a base bid and then some alternates. And based on the review of the equipment and the needs in conjunction with TCAPS, we've chose to go with the Avalon Technologies Incorporated alternate bid number 1. So in the documentation that you received, you can see there's a TCAPS price, a TBA price, and then the total for that. And we did all of the evaluating with TCAPS and their team as well to move forward, and their board will be taking action on this tomorrow as well. And the total for that is $167,932.
And was this a 50-50 split?
It is not a 50-50 split. It is actually they bid out the specifications for our system and then the specifications for TCAP's system.
Okay.
So their bid total is actually larger than ours, or their total will be larger than ours because they have a larger infrastructure.
Okay, understood.
So is this a all or nothing? I mean, if we approve it, it goes. If they don't, it does. I mean, does it matter? Is it contingent?
It is not.
Not that they wouldn't. I just wanted to know.
It is not contingent upon. We can each buy separately. We just wanted to make sure we chose the same vendor so we can support each other moving forward.
Perfect.
And this is a 1 year?
This is, no, this should last us 6 to 8 years.
Oh, great.
Let's have a motion and a support and continue the discussion if we could.
I'd make the motion to approve.
Support.
All right, further discussion, go ahead. All right. There being no further discussion, Dr. Segura, could you call the roll, please?
Shear,
Yes.
Tank,
Yes.
Berge,
Yes.
McKellar,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
For some reason, you all switched on my screen, so thanks for your flexibility.
Most of that has to do with Jason's barber. It's not too late to get your money
Yeah,
back.
I pushed the random button as random gallery and everyone switched. I'm kidding. It's not true.
I messed up on the agenda. Welcome everyone to the special meeting of the Traverse Bay Area Intermediate School District. This is also the time for public comment. Is there anyone waiting to do that? Apparently not.
There is not.
No.
Nope. All right. We'll go on to Roman numeral 3 updates. Dr. Segleri.
Yeah, I'll keep my remarks brief. I appreciate your flexibility, board, to approve for this special meeting and to approve the technology as presented. Obviously, the discussion around the superintendent table right now is around the budget and what's looming. The revenue estimating conference is going to be happening this week, and we're starting to get word that it is as bad as we're thinking it will be. There will be likely a per pupil reduction next year, as well as a high probability of a negative supplemental this fiscal year, so possibly a proration. I think they're tipping their hand a little bit. Linda and I received some documents reminding everyone what the legal statute is around prorations. So we'll, as soon as we get some more information on that, we will be sure to let you know. Our local districts are bracing for that. They're providing or presenting a couple different scenarios with the budgets. Linda will be leading the business managers and the superintendents through a meeting tomorrow to outline how to access additional federal CARES Act dollars, and appreciate her leadership with that. Some good news.
Nick,
Yeah.
oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Jason.
Could you explain a little bit about what this supplemental is in terms of, well, A, what it is, B, what the magnitude of that typically is, and what are we talking about in terms of a negative supplemental for this school year?
Yeah, sure. Great question. So if you recall, the governor vetoed a substantial amount of a line item vetoes, a lot of dollars, some of them coming to public schools. And so what she said in doing that is that in conjunction with the legislature, there's still an opportunity for us to possibly restore some of those programs cut, and they do that through a supplemental process. So a bill is introduced that has financial implications. Usually it's to the positive, to say, okay, we're going to reenact or support this particular program or this section of the school code. And then two houses agree, goes to the governor, she usually signs, and then we receive the funds. Well, that same mechanism can happen in the reverse. They could say, based on the revenue consensus, the finances aren't there to support X amount, what we said we were going to give. And so therefore, we're going to institute a negative supplemental that would essentially not give us what they were projecting to give us in certain areas. My best guess, and Linda, you can weigh in on this if you would like. My best guess is that they're going to, it won't be as significant because we are already 8 nights through the year already. So they're going to look at programs. Hi, Jim. They're going to look at programs that maybe we have not fully enacted yet. Dollars that they were going to give for next year then will be held and reserved. And so we'll have to adjust accordingly. The vast majority of districts are in a position now, I think, again, not knowing what tomorrow's going to bring, not knowing what next year's budget's going to look like, they'll be able to, for the most part, absorb those cuts should there be a negative supplemental, as long as it's not too significant. Linda, do you want to add anything to that?
Nick is correct. In terms of the statute is if they don't have enough to be able to fund what they've allocated, they have to take that back. We do have some indication of what that's looked like in the past. We had the House Fiscal Agency put out a publication just today in terms of what that might look like, and it does reference a couple of past issuances where they've had to do those cuts, and it has ranged in terms of just a straight across the board. So they look at what are protected categories, and some of the easiest ones that you think about in terms of protected category, it's the foundation that is secured under Proposal A 1994-95 amounts, and then as well as special education. So when we had a proration that was done in 2002, 2003, they just looked at what else is not protected, and they just did a percentage of that piece and took it back. And then when we had prorations that came in 2009, 2010, 10, 11, it became more of a foundation per pupil cut because that was more fair across the board. So when you think about the differences that people get in terms of their state funding and their local funding, that per pupil amount was a more fair amount. So those are just some of the past historical purposes. I think in terms of how this might look, Nick is correct. We've already been told in terms of robotics, they know there were a lot of competitions that didn't happen in the spring. So if you haven't spent those dollars, those will be recaptured. I think there may be some categorical funds that we may be asked, what have you not spent? And they'll look at probably recapturing those funds in the current year and then start to assess what is it that we can take on a per pupil basis if that's where it needs to go.
So is it fair, Linda, to say that they're not necessarily going to utilize, let's say, a 2x formula when they're doing the proration, so that districts that are getting, you know, that extra $600 or whatever it is, the differential now between the highest foundation and the lowest foundation, that they're not going to disproportionately take it from the highest relative to the lowest? Is that fair to say that they're going to probably do it prorated, just in a more even way, even though it's not actually equitable? I would argue.
I would agree. And if you look at what's in the House Fiscal Agency, and I suspect that it's not a coincidence that was published just today. They're looking at referencing what is in the law, and 2x is not in the law. So that's what they have to go back to.
Yeah, I will say that we did have invited Senator Schmidt, who is the chair of the K-12 approach, to our last superintendent meeting, or I guess maybe it was 2 superintendent meetings ago. And we did propose that idea or concept. He was open or receptive to it, but probably too tall of an order given where everyone is at. The other concept that we hope that he would consider is, even if we do, Kelly is leading a group that's really centered around what is it going to look like next fall, and they're going through different scenarios, from coming back as traditional as possible with as much social distancing as possible to continuation of learning plans. What we asked is that he consider using the pupil count of this fiscal year, because even if we do have students that come back, we are going to have some parents, I suspect, that are going to choose to keep their children home. And that could affect our pupil count as well. And so while we recognize there might be a proration to allow our districts to at least budget and plan accordingly would be helpful. So we hope we're going to continue with the dialogue and the conversation with our legislative leaders. I think it's also important to note that this state budget hole could also be propped up, if you will, with some federal support. There was a House bill that was dropped yesterday that would give local governments, including schools, a significant amount of support. It was completely bipartisan, so the likelihood of that moving is not very high, but at least there was discussion and conversations around the possibility of some federal intervention. And there's going to definitely be a need for that. Are there any other questions on budgets and funding and where we're headed? Obviously, it's dynamic. We'll make sure that we're staying on top of it. Some good news.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Last little bit. The good news is yesterday we, through the Ag Science Program and Brian Matchett, and like to thank Pat Lamb for his leadership as well. We delivered over 200 hanging baskets to Munson Healthcare workers and the pavilions. They were overjoyed, and it was a really great way to support the true heroes in our community. And I wish there was more we can do, but it was a nice gesture. And Record Eagle was there and 9 and 10. So 9 and 10 did a little segment on it. If you weren't able to catch it, we can have Renee send it your way. But that was a real positive that I want to share with the board.
Cool. Nice.
That's all I have, President Fisher.
Did you say Jim Carpenter joined us?
He did.
I can see him.
I can't. Jim, we started without you. We had some confusion over whether it was a 3 o'clock or 3:30 commencement. So welcome, glad you were here. And we passed the action item dealing with the technical support. So any comment?
I looked right at the agenda about an hour ago and I thought, oh, doesn't start till 3:30. I'm okay. So
You're not alone.
I was on my tractor, so I never heard my phone ring.
All right. Anybody else have anything for the good of the order?
Just a thanks to Kelly, for her work and good luck
Oh, that's right.
going down to Farmington.
Absolutely.
Yep.
That's what I was going to say too, Kelly. It's been such a pleasure working with you, and I wish we had more time with you, but to be close to family and grandbabies is awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's been wonderful. Thank you.
Yep. I wish you all the best. Anything else? All right. We're adjourned. Be safe, everyone.
Awesome. Bye,
Yep,
guys.
Yep.
Thanks.
Take care, guys.
Good to see everyone.